Hey guys. Whew. Long day. Hope everybody had a good Labor Day. And we're going to have a good discussion hopefully here tonight. So, you know, I'm speaking to you guys, you know, through my own experience, but also through, you know, the experience I see from other guys, people that I know, people like other YouTubers, you know, in the I guess you could call it the red pill space, for the lack of a better word, but you know, you look at the Rich Cooper channels. There was Coach Red Pill back in the day. There's other channels out there. I can't think of them offhand, but I guess, you know, male improvement, we'll call it. LFA Show's another great channel. You know, and it's apparent that there are a lot of men out there that are lonely. You know, in this video, it's really aimed at people that, you know, can stand on their own 2 feet. People that are making decent money, guys that take care of themselves, you know, quality men. I'm not talking about the 35-year-old that's living in his mom's basement, or the guy that just got out of rehab, you know, or you know, people that are fucked. I'm talking about people that are, you know, standing on their own 2 feet, are legitimate, solid individuals that are, you know, experiencing loneliness. Because, you know, if somebody falls into one of the aforementioned types of people I just mentioned, then it's obvious why they're having problems they have in that respect. But we're talking about solid individuals being lonely, so I just want to get that out of the way. But there's a lot of guys out there who, you know, are having this problem. And, you know, at a certain point, a certain age, you get to, it happened for me very young, where I realized the clubs were never, the bars were never a good place to meet women. You know, I'm not saying you can't meet somebody there, but oftentimes, you know, the best you're going to get is a one-night stand. And the worst you're going to get is just a lot of wasted time. I suppose it could be a good place to practice cold approach, but, you know, it's really just not the best place to meet women. So if it's not clubs and it's not bars, you know, where do people go where they can meet people? You know, it used to be the grocery store, coffee shop, a gym, you know, some sort of activity that you're into, rock climbing or yoga or whatever, maybe salsa dancing, you know, whatever it is. But, you know, it seems really in the last, maybe I'd say, 3 to 5 years especially, it's gotten a lot worse in terms of, you know, the communication that people have with each other, where, you know, it just seems like women just aren't that receptive and interested in men in general, period. And people are really exclusively meeting each other on, you know, on dating sites or and now with the dating sites, you know, it's not just Tinder, Bumble, and Match and Plenty of Fisters. you know, exclusive dating sites where you have to make a certain amount of money and you have to get your profile approved and it's expensive. You know, you have all these dating coaches popping up, you know, selling you a $5,000, you know, mentorship program that basically teach you how to be better with women, I guess. You know, so if there's people out there that are creating these apps and creating these mentorship programs to, you know, teach you how to do something that should be, you know, ingrained in you naturally, then it tells me that we've got a serious problem in this society. And that, you know, you can, I mean, I do think that, you know, you have to be in a good position to meet a woman, meaning like, you know, you need to be making decent money, you gotta have your own place, you need to have your finances, you know, relatively in order, you should be in shape, you should like the way you look in the mirror, you know, you should have a style about you, but you should be a solid man more than anything. You should have a solid understanding of reality and where you fit into that and where you're going and, you know, what you believe is right, what you believe is wrong, what your values are, what your principles are, right? You know, and this isn't just to be attracted to women, it's more about just having self-respect, right? So, you know, it especially seems apparent, you know, living down here in Miami, where, you know, it's the influencer capital of the world. We've got, you know, the OnlyFans, we've got the sugar daddies, we've got the sugar babies, we've got the fuck boys, the club guys, you know, and the influencers, like I said, and everybody seems to be here trying to be somebody, trying to be a somebody, and not just being them. You know, and it's become an exhausting place for me. I've lived down here for now 5 years, and you know, the pool of eligible women here are just, you know, I don't know what is attracting this certain group of women that are incredibly flaky, poor communicators, emotionally damaged, you know, traumatized, very emotionally and mentally unstable, of all different races, of all different walks of life, yet they somehow can look good physically, but everything else is completely fucked. Like, they might look hot, but, you know, they've got serious fucking problems. And when you get to know these girls, you go on a date with them, you clearly see you have like two main types of women here. You have women that just want to use you for your money, you know, so they're trying to figure out how much money you make, where you live, what you drive, what you do for a living, how many followers you have on Instagram, that type of shit. Or you have, you know, these girls that are extremely fragile, they're emotionally, you know, unstable, they have massive psychological problems that, and you know, they're not very good at hiding it. They usually just disclose it on the first date when they start talking about their ex, or they start talking about abuse that they've had, or they start talking about family problems that they have, and they just, they haven't resolved their issues. I don't know why Miami attracts these type of people. It seems to be just prevalent down here. And I don't know how it is in the rest of the country. I don't know if it's as bad. I would have to think it's not as bad. The people just really aren't real. And so I guess in a way this video was or is geared for people that are living in South Florida. But I'd like to hear from my viewers, if you guys are noticing this in other parts of the country, because I've been here for 5 years, and I've just noticed that it almost seems like it's gotten worse every single year. In terms of all the things that I've just talked about. And so I'm just at a loss. It seems to me like if you're not a bazillionaire, or you don't have a shitload of followers on Instagram, like, your chances are, pretty fucking slim. And look, I make over 6 figures. I make 6 figures. I'm in shape. I train every day. I have my own place. I've got 2 cars. Got a couple dogs. I've got a master's degree. Like, I'm 6 feet tall. And I'm having a hard time. And I suspect that what's happening is that these women are really exclusively meeting people on the internet, because they think that by checking out somebody's social media page, that's going to do all the work for them in figuring out someone's value or who somebody is. And instead of meeting somebody organically, just giving somebody a chance and getting to know somebody and seeing, where things are going to go, they think that social media can just solve all their problems for them. And that's because we're in this generation of everybody wanting whatever they want right here, right now. They don't want to wait. They want everything figured out for them. They don't want to find out. They don't want to go through the normal process of meeting somebody. So it really just, I never really wanted to play the social media game. I always thought that it was fake, that it was dehumanizing. To reduce somebody to their persona on Instagram and having to play that game. Unless you've got, hundreds of thousands of followers, you're opening yourself up to competition worldwide. And if that's the game you're gonna play, then the girl's gonna just pick whoever has the best Instagram. Whoever has the best Instagram doesn't necessarily mean that they're the best. It just means that they have the best Instagram because of the pictures and what bullshit content they've created. And I get it, it's a digital economy now. And, we have to adapt and change with the times, but it just seems like the humanity is being stripped from us, and we're really pretty much cyborgs at this point. You know, we're just communicating with each other digitally, not taking into account that, you know, actually meeting somebody, you know, requires you to actually go out and have social skills, you know, and talk to people. And I see that the quality of social interaction is been diminished. You know, I was out to dinner with a friend of mine. It was him, his wife, and another friend, so there were 4 of us. And it was in a restaurant, and then there was a speakeasy off to the side of the restaurant. And I went into the speakeasy, and I see these 5 girls, probably around my age, all sitting at a table, and all 5 of them are on their phones. They're not even communicating with each other. And guys, I mean, how many times when you're out to dinner do you look around and you see somebody on a date and they're not talking to each other? They're on each other's phones. So, you know, I'm not one to complain. I'm one to find a solution to things. But I can't help but just notice that it seems like, you know, society is really, really going downhill. And a large reason of why this is because of social media. You know, it's because people just don't talk to each other. You know, this generation is riddled with social anxiety. They don't know how to solve problems. Their whole reality is exclusively social media and the internet. And I don't think it's good. I think that that's a real big reason why we have this loneliness epidemic, is that we have lost the willingness and the appreciation for just organic interaction with each other. You know, and a lot of people, you know, like I mean, I have this friend that lives down the street from me. He lives maybe 3 blocks away, and I haven't seen him in almost 4 months. And we'll talk on the phone like maybe once or twice a week, but we never even see each other. And a lot of these friendships that people have are really based on talking on the phone. Come on, get out of here. They're based on talking on the phone. They're not based on any, you know, on face-to-face interaction. You know, and that's a real problem. Because if you're unable to communicate face-to-face, then when problems happen, when misunderstandings happen, and especially when you just think that people are so easy to replace because all you have to do is go on an app and just swipe enough times and you'll match with somebody else, it leads to treating people like they're expendable. Like they don't really matter, they don't really have much value, they're easily replaceable, and we forget, like, you know, like 6 months, a year, whatever it is, a couple months of investing into this person, into trying to make this relationship work. You know, it just gets discarded. You can just, you know, block somebody because it's just a click of a button, block, boom, done, and you're done with that person. You moved on, but you never really resolved your issues with that person because you don't know how to resolve your issues with people, because you don't know how to communicate, because you're living your life on the internet. You're living your life through the persona of what people think you are based on YouTube or based on Instagram or whatever the fuck it is. You know, and that's why we have people like Get off. No. No. That's why we have people that are so lost. And they're looking for somebody to, you know, tell them what to do, to guide them, to answer all their problems, to answer, you know, to make up for their own lack of, you know, inner security. And, you know, that's where you get a Wes Watson. That's where you get an Andrew Tate. Because, you know, those guys seem to have all the answers. Well, get off! Annoying dog. Be around me. I don't want you getting in my face. Come on. Good boy. Thank you. So, as much as I love dogs, I can't stand them sometimes either. Good boy. Alright. Guess you're gonna stay on the couch. Alright. I guess that was an affirmative. Yeah, so. You know, I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I guess, you know, I got off of dating apps for such a long time. I just think it's such a waste of time, and it's, you know, it's time consuming, it's a distraction, you know, and, but, you know, I think a lot of people are avoiding their problems of, and men and women, of why they're alone. You know, and they delude themselves to, you know, they pour themselves into their work, they become obsessed with the gym, they constantly have to travel, right? They're just unwilling to put themselves out there and find somebody. You know, it takes work, it takes effort, it takes courage to just put yourself out there and stop being such a fucking weak ass, soft motherfucker. You know, and especially down here, man, you know, the women are just so fucking broken. They're so incredibly weak. They have no backbone. They have no ground to stand on. You know, they're so easily knocked off their center. You know, and I mean, you know, I only roll with solid dudes, so I don't know. I mean, I know there's a lot of piece of shit guys out here too. You guys that are scammers, guys that are, you know, trying to flex and living beyond their means. You know, it's absolutely, you know, ubiquitous here. It almost seems. But you know, for me, I think that the culture of a place really determines a lot of, you know, how the dating is going to go, right? You know, you come down to Miami, Florida, you know, it's a party city. It's a party city. People are on vacation mode. Women are on easy mode here. You know, they know that they can find a rich guy to pay for all their bills and spoil them and have this opulent lifestyle and not have to work for it. And so that's what they're doing, you know, and I can't say that, on one hand, I can't say that I blame them, but on the other hand, I really I understand what the cost is of doing something like that, because nothing's for free. There's always a hidden cost. And the hidden cost is, well, I could make a whole video on that. But believe me, there's a cost to that. You know, when you sell your body for sex or for, I'm sorry, when you sell your body for money or expensive gifts or a lifestyle, you know, something dies in you. You know, and that's why a lot of times I've been on dates with women and I can tell like somebody's just dead in them. You know, when you're a model, and I dated a girl that was an international model from Brazil, beautiful girl, a total fucking knockout. And she was just dead inside. You know, there was no excitement, there was no zest for life, because she had already seen everything. She'd already been on the yachts, the private jets, she's been all over the world, lived internationally, been, you know, 50, 60 countries by the time she was 27. She's dated, you know, the richest men in multiple big cities. You know, she's been in the most expensive cars, the most expensive restaurants, the most expensive resorts. You know, there's nothing she hasn't been exposed to, so you can't impress her. You can't. But it's not only about impressing her, it's about that there's just nothing left to see. You know, it's like she's just done everything. She's had every single experience so young. It's like there's nothing else that life can offer someone like that has that mindset. You know, so that's the other thing too, right? Like these girls, they get used to a certain lifestyle. They get you, and it's a lifestyle that you're not going to be able to replicate for them. But because they've been exposed to everything so early on, there's really nothing you can do. Everything that you do with them is just going to bore them. Like even just going out to a nice dinner and having like a nice time, like that's not enough for them. You know, it's like they've got to be constantly stimulated and entertained, and you know, they've got to be captivated, and it's a very stressful endeavor, because you're never gonna do enough. And they've got so many guys throwing themselves at them that have ridiculous amounts of money, or they appear to have ridiculous amounts of money, that, you know, the normal healthy progression of dating is all fucked up. Like, I mean, if it's a first date, like, I mean, it doesn't really make much sense to go and spend $250, $300 on a dinner date when you just met a girl, right? I mean, that's a big investment, and I mean, if you're dating regularly and things are going great, that's different. But like a first date should be like a meet and greet. You know, it should be like something pretty low key to even see if you even want to take it to that level, right? But you know, these girls expect to be taken to, you know, the most expensive restaurants and to be picked up or to be sent in Uber, and you know, most of the time they're not going to sleep with you on the first date, and most of the time they don't even plan on seeing you ever again, because again, you gotta understand something. Women have become, especially down here, they have become addicted to validation, and it is your validation that they seek, even more sometimes more than your wallet, surely more than your penis, surely more than going back to your place. They want validation. And so as soon as they get that validation, you know, the more expensive the restaurant is, the more it's validating how valuable they are. Wow, this guy's, you know, doesn't even know me, and he's, you know, taking me to, you know, the Versace mansion or something, right? You know, he's taking me to some Michelin star restaurant. So it's like they're used to this though, because because everyone's trying to flex, everyone's trying to show off, everyone's trying to appear as though, you know, they've got the world by the balls. And so women become used to that type of standard and that type of treatment. But, you know, as a man that has solid morals, values, and principles, like, if you know that that's not in your best interest, then you just don't play the game. And that's why I'm realizing that, you know, look, I never really liked it down here. I just happen to make really good money here, and that's sometimes hard to leave. But I've realized that I'm never going to be happy here. I'm never, you know, for not just for the women, for many other reasons. But it's time to head west. It's time to roll. So, being that it's the start of a new month, you know, we're already in September now. You know, we're at the home stretch of, you know, the last third of the year. I've got some trips planned. I'm going to go to Ireland. We'll see where else I go. Try to hit up at least 2 or 3 other countries while I'm over there. I've got a road trip to California that I'm planning. And I have a trip I'm planning to go to just Peru for just a few days. So we'll see. See how things materialize. All right, guys. Keep on keeping on.